In the beginning of our journey, we have the womb of memory. We have to always remember that the womb isn't just a vessel, it's a living library, a living archive of every touch, every breath, and every emotion it ever received. It holds the imprints of past lovers, it holds the echoes of trauma, it holds the stories of our ancestors who never were able to speak their truth. And so the beginning of our journey is to clear this space, because until these imprints are cleared, the womb can't become the Grail. So every intimate encounter leaves a resonance inside of our tissues, in the womb, in the yoni canal, in the cellular memory. This isn't just in our mind, it's in the tissues of the womb and the yoni. And the womb, as a sentient vessel, remembers the tone of the breath that enters it, and it stores that memory. The yoni remembers the presence or the absence of love in all of the tissues in that sacred space. Remember whether they were honored or they were used or even abused. So these imprints aren't shameful things. They're just echoes, like shadows that are left over, and they're shadows and echoes that we have to clear and release. But they have to be acknowledged before they can be released. They have to be felt and let go. And trauma is memory in the tissues, so it's not just an event. It's a contraction in the spiral of the body. So it's a contraction of your field. As the womb contracts, your breath shortens, your body braces and armors, and your spiral will collapse when it's holding many layers of these sort of discordant memories. So until, as a priestess, you're able to breathe into these contractions, they are going to be they're going to be stored in your body as tension or numbness or pain, and actually can begin to erupt as all kinds of issues in your feminine organs, whether it's your womb, whether it's your ovaries. It can be cysts, it can be all kinds of extreme menstrual pain, any sort of disorders in the whole sacral region in that energetic space often are rooted in these sorts of memories being stored in the tissues. So the purification of the space isn't optional, it's really essential. And I'm going to attach a womb cleansing ritual for you, but just so you know, there's many different ways that you can clear your womb. You can use the spiral breath that we know in the womb to consciously move that energy. You can tone or hum or sing, make sounds to vibrate that memory loose. You can massage, and there's various massage techniques both internally of the yoni and externally on the abdomen. There's womb massage. That's a great and powerful Mayan tradition. You can look for practitioners. And also just the awareness of naming and physically releasing past lovers, any cording and energetic cording that they may still retain into our field, and not out of a space of blame, but out of a space of sovereign release to reclaim all of that space as your own. So the womb has to be emptied of the many multitudes of echoes that exist within it before we can really transition into filling it with light. So remember that the womb's a library. That's how sacred it is. And not all the books in the library are books that we actually want to keep. So when we're looking to become the solar grail, this womb has to be cleansed and purified and released, so the echoes of the past are let go and we can spiral our own field into coherence. Once the womb is cleared and purified, then we can begin to infuse her with her radiant light. And we can do this through the working with the Holy Spirit as the infusion of the breath of spirit. So don't think of the Holy Spirit as the dove as we see it, although that's a very powerful symbol for the presence of the Holy Spirit. But it is more of a flame. It's a breath of ether that spirals through all things, but here we're focusing on the solar womb. So when the solar womb is prepared properly, when it's been purified by devotional practice, aligned by breath, and opened by the opening and connection of the heart womb, and connection of the heart with the womb, the Holy Spirit is then able to descend and enter as a spiral of light. And this is the Christos flame. It's the Logos entering the Grail. And just as you would prepare for such a sacred entrance, you understand that we as the Grail Temple need to prepare the vessel. You wouldn't invite the Godhead to enter into a place that's not in order, that's not purified, that's not been sanctified. And so that's a way to think about your own body, not because there's anything bad about your body. There's no shame in any of this or degradation. It's simply what happens when we're in the third dimensional field and we've had many lifetimes of distortion and we're holding all these patterns of energetic contraction and fragmentation. So if we want to prepare as the pristineness of the empty vessel that is the priestess, it's our obligation of love to prepare the temple properly. And this is also where you hear the metaphor of the bride in the bridal chamber. So the womb, is the preparation of the bridal chamber that the bride arrives in to receive the groom, the Holy Christos, the Logos. So the Holy Spirit becomes present in the solar womb when we're able to surrender our need to control anything outside of us. There's a really powerful surrender to the divine will and order. And when our breath aligns back to that origin breath of that spiral breath. And so the womb transitions. It's no longer a vessel of that memory of fragmentation, but it becomes a chalice now of transmission. And so this is the moment when we start to enter the true space of inner union, and it's the moment when the Grail really becomes activated. So this ether, the Holy Spirit, this wind of respiration inspired by the divine, the ether is the breath of love, and it's the element that unifies the spiral. And it's the field where the Holy Spirit enters the solar womb and ignites that Christos flame, which is the true mystery of the solar feminine, the embodiment of the Christos within the Sophia. So to make the transition from the vessel of memory to the Grail of transmission, we need to remember that the womb is not static. It evolves, and just like we evolve, it's a living, breathing, sentient oracle. Eventually, when you are able to open these energetics, the oracular capacities of the womb will begin to open to you. And so the womb is also breathing and spiraling through phases, and each one has a deeper octave of remembrance and expression. So we move through the phases of awakening from this dense vessel of memory that's holding all this stagnant, dark, fragmented, deep anti-life even, depending what has happened to us. There can be really some not good energies that we've received, again, not because we're bad or we were not intelligent. We were what we were. We received what we did based on the best that we could. We had karmic contracts. We cared for people that maybe held darkness. We had our own darkness, in places within us. So this phase when we're holding all of this density inside of us is nothing to be ashamed of. It's just the way it is when we're in a body and we're going through this process. And it's also, we inherit a lot of the ancestral echoes, all the emotional imprints of our own and others, and some of those astral lunar rhythms can also live in there. So it's important to intentionally clear any webbing to that dark astral network in the lower astral moon current, to make sure that that's cleared. So in that way the womb becomes receptive, deep, and it returns to its true mysterious nature. And this here is the aspect of the lunar womb when we're really clearing that and going down into the darkness to clean and clear it and bring it into stillness, right? The holy stillness. And then as we breathe, and as we hold that spiral and we devote ourselves to the element of the ether, the Holy Spirit, the womb really begins to change and transform, and it becomes the living chalice of transmission, is the Grail.